Hi everybody, and welcome to this video that you absolutely need to watch about 7 key tips around body language that you must learn before your next presentation. Now, you probably have already been taught that much of the way we are perceived as presenters has not only to do with the message, the content of what we're presenting, but us, our body, our voice, the way we come across, our body language that we present as a message to our audience in the presentation. Presenters who have good body language, good strong body language, and use their voice correctly and well, come across as more confident and more credible. So there's a very easy set of tips that we're going to go through now that will raise your game in terms of presenting. You will come across immediately as more confident and more credible to your audience. Tip number 1, to project confidence, and by the way, this is probably something that your parents and your teachers told you, practice good posture. Roll your shoulders back, bring your elbows back. This does a couple of things. Your posture improves, you look more comfortable and confident in front of your audience, and guess what? It helps you to get more air inside of your lungs, which is sometimes a problem when you're standing up in front of an audience. So roll those shoulders back, practice good posture, bring the elbows back, and you will look more confident as a presenter. Tip number 2 is smile. Smiling is contagious. Smiling is something, a genuine smile, that breaks down barriers. Smiling is something evolutionarily that we are programmed as humans to look for as a way to say, that person's okay, I can trust them. The key point here, though, is a genuine smile. Now, this might sound a little bit strange, but if you're uncomfortable smiling in front of an audience, maybe practice it in front of a mirror. A genuine smile uses the eyes as well. So think about something happy, think about something funny. If you really want to have a genuine smile, don't fake it, because that can have the opposite effect. But tip number 2, remember, smile. Tip number 3, to capture your audience's attention, use appropriate hand gestures. So see what I'm doing here. Now, hand gestures are really interesting because they can emphasize points. They can draw attention to certain parts of a screen if you're using a screen or a whiteboard for a presentation. So make sure that you think about the use of hand gestures. Plan those into your presentation. Here again, like smiling, we want to use the right types of hand gestures and the right amount of hand gestures to help develop emphasis and to improve the credibility that we have as we're delivering our presentation. Tip number 4, to engage your audience, use appropriate eye contact. Now, in every culture, some level of eye contact is okay. And so if you're engaging an audience, think about, how can I spend just a few seconds connecting eye to eye with each person in the audience? If it's a large crowd, maybe pick out certain people in certain parts of the audience. But this is where you can combine hand gestures and really give someone in the audience not only a gesture saying, I'm giving you this point, but connect with them eye to eye for 3, no longer than 4 seconds. So think about how you can appropriately use eye contact to make a connection and engage your audience. Tip number 5 has to do with encouraging audience participation. So there are a few things that you can do here. You can use movement in the room. Rapid movement signals urgency. If you get a little bit closer to people in the audience, that encourages them to not only engage you from an eye contact perspective, but maybe to get engaged in the conversation if it's that type of presentation. A really basic tip here is ask questions of the audience or of individuals in the audience. So think about how you can engage the audience, get them involved in not just the presentation, but if it's appropriate, the conversation that's going on in the room. Tip number 6 has to do with drawing attention to certain points on your slides. So if you're using slides or maybe even a whiteboard for your presentations, use hand gestures, pointing, to draw attention to certain areas on a graph or a chart or bullet points on a slide. So this will really help to direct the audience's attention to the right things on the slide to help them focus on that area. So think of it in terms of using your hands as a pointing device to really get people to zero in on what you want them to notice on the slide. So this is a great tip in terms of drawing attention to the right things in your materials. And our last tip has to do with demonstrating authority and avoiding what we'll call filler words. So here we're really concentrating on the voice. So body language is obviously important, but your voice, the words that you say, the way that you say them, the tone of your voice is critically important to your credibility as a presenter as well. And there's nothing that can destroy credibility quicker than using words like, you know. So in English, those would be notable filler words. Obviously, other languages would have other filler words. But a lot of times this is nervous energy being expended in the form of these nonsense words. It can really wreck a presentation. There's a game sometimes in large corporations that's played. It's called conference room bingo, where people will bet how often is so-and-so going to say that word, their pet word. Maybe it's actually, maybe it's so, maybe it's you know, maybe it's So whatever it might be, avoid those at all costs. One thing that you can do as a presenter that could really help here is record yourself presenting so that you can see what type of filler words are your pet words. Or get feedback from a colleague. Are you using certain filler words? Take that feedback in the spirit that it's meant to help you to get better. If you've got certain pet words, think about substituting other words that are more powerful, like now, however. So think about words that will help convey your message, expend that nervous energy, but keep you on track in terms of being able to deliver a confident and credible presentation to your audience. Thanks for joining us for today's video. If you like this video, be sure to like it and maybe even share it. And be sure to subscribe to Noodle Factory at noodlefactory.com.sg.